Automated Insulin Delivery Symposium. Uh, the agenda of the symposium looks like this. We have two talks followed by a chat with the users who are using this device. And for chairing this session, I would like to invite Dr. Ahila Yao ma'am. She is a consultant pediatric endocrinology and diabetes at G. Kupuswamy Naidu Memorial Hospital, and she's also visiting consultant at Masonic Medical Center. She's a president of ISPE. And Dr. IPS Kocher, sir, who is a senior consultant pediatric and adolescent endo and diabetes at Indraprasth Apollo Hospital and Pushpanjali Medical Center, Delhi. And he has published more than 26 articles in various journals and got immense experience in pediatric. Sir and ma'am, I would like to invite you to officially start the session.
Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who are kind enough to stay back to look at us, thank you so much for staying back. It's been a wonderful conference, and we are deeply thankful to the organizing committee for putting together such a wonderful program. And Dr. Kocher will join me shortly. While we wait, we will start off with the. We've got some interesting lectures for this. So first, I don't have the program. I think Dr. Vaman does not require an introduction to this audience. Everybody would know. And I think Chiranta, Posa, and Nimisha and their presentations today also says the amount of research that's going on with the team, with Dr. Vaman and Dr. Anuradha. It's brilliant research, and I think you're taking everything further. And we are honored to have Dr. Vaman Kadalkar to deliver the first lecture on this satellite symposia on automated insulin delivery systems. Is automated insulin delivery a right of every child with type 1 diabetes? Dr. Kadalkar, for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Ahila. Yes, that's the question, isn't it? If you go to United Kingdom today, every child who has type 1 diabetes would get a pump. And if you refuse a pump, then you would be counseled to have one. So let's see whether this question we can answer in the coming 15 or 20 minutes. So what does the United Nations Convention on the Rights of a Child says? So first it says that adults should always consider the impact of their decisions on children. And Article 24 states that parties recognize the right of a child to the enjoyment of the highest attainable standard of health and to facilities for the treatment of illness and rehabilitation of health. It also states that parties shall strive to ensure that no child is deprived of his or her right of access to such healthcare services. Now, we all know that the best glycemic control that you and I have is provided by nature. And there are multiple levels at which glucose is maintained in a very tight range throughout day and night. Despite the fact that you're eating, you're exercising, you're sleeping, you're stressed, and you're doing whatever that you have to during day-to-day activity, your blood sugar is maintained very, very tightly. So it's interesting that nature has given us 4 counter-regulatory hormones to push the sugar up, isn't it? We have got 4 hormones. We have got adrenaline, noradrenaline, cortisol, and glucagon. But we have only 1 hormone to push the sugar down. It's very strange because in our body, usually there is a backup mechanism for almost everything except hyperglycemia. And one of the reasons why I feel that that kind of a system exists in nature is because in nature, I think God never envisaged that there would be a time when there will be such common hyperglycemia. Now, type 1 diabetes is a very unique condition where there is destruction of islets and that we know. But since there isn't any other backup hormone that can push the sugars down, we have to depend only on insulin. So multiple methods for last several years. I mean, you know that it's more than 100 years since Banting and Best gave insulin to the first child. And even today we are giving insulin in a refined form. That's about it. But multiple strategies and methods to combat type 1 diabetes have taken place over last several decades, I would say. And if you look at these two major pathways, where the top pathway goes via the insulin and its sophisticated delivery system, and the pathway at the bottom is primarily looking at can we reduce the pancreatic cell damage. But I think from the lower pathway, although there is a definite progress, we are still quite away from a biological answer to type 1 diabetes. Whereas we are pretty close to an electronic control of type 1 diabetes. Now, that gentleman who's wearing that huge pump in the bottom left half of your screen is Dr. Arnold Cavendish, who was the first person to carry his insulin pump on his back, and they were as huge as that. And today, here we are from 1960s to 2020, 24, and now you have pumps which are really tiny. Not only that they're small, but they have far more facilities and AI built into them to help control sugar better. So the technology has actually improved by leaps and bounds in last decade or so. So automated insulin delivery automatically adjusts insulin in response to the sensor that measures glucose. And at the moment in India, we only have one product, which you can see in that red box, which is Medtronic's 780G. And I'm not going to read through all the facets that this pump has, but essentially it measures, it communicates to the pump, and there is a predictive algorithm that is built in. So the pump learns the way your sugar trends are, then has built-in predictive algorithm that it improves on and automatically delivers insulin. What do the guidelines say about use of insulin delivery systems? So this is Diabetes Technology Standards of Care in Diabetes 2024. It says that automatic insulin delivery system should be offered for diabetes management to youth and adults with type 1 diabetes. And it also says when should we start? It can actually be started at the diagnosis. But it's very important to evaluate the family situation, the family's ability to understand diabetes, their understanding about diabetes. See, automatic insulin delivery is not a panacea for every child with type 1 diabetes. It's to be offered to people who have a fairly good understanding of type 1 diabetes, the diet, sugar control, and they have the ability to look after the technology. But it can be started right at the onset of type 1 diabetes. ISPAD 2022 guidelines also say that connected insulin pens have the potential to improve diabetes management on intensive insulin therapy with multiple daily injections. And then it goes on to say that automatic insulin delivery systems, which are also known as closed loops, are strongly recommended for youth with diabetes. Now, you all know that hyperglycemia, especially over a period of time, has effects on several body systems. To highlight a few, diagnosis of type 1 diabetes prior to the age of 10 results in a loss of 17.7 life years for a woman and 14.2 life years for a man. Hyperglycemia is associated with cognitive impairment and brain damage, and acute and chronic hyperglycemia impairs spatial working memory. Now, we all know that hypoglycemia is a very dramatic event and is most traumatic to patient and the family and the caretakers, and therefore it is feared most. However, we tend to ignore these very glaring facts that hyperglycemia per se not only causes damage to your micro and macro vessels, but it also causes damage to your learning, your cognitive ability, to your memory, and reduces your lifespan. So this study on automated insulin delivery system, this is a meta-analysis of several studies published in the past. 25 trials were included in this meta-analysis, and it concluded that automatic insulin delivery systems are more effective than conventional insulin therapy for children and adolescents with type 1 in outpatient settings. And the favorable effect is consistent both in the short term as well as in the long term. Now, this study done in Copenhagen in Denmark shows, or rather compares, 4 types of treatments that we use: MDI, then sensor along with CGM, sensor augmented insulin pumps, and automatic insulin deliveries. And as you can see, from MDI on your left hand side to the automatic insulin delivery systems, the time in range, the green bar, shows significant improvement. So when you use automatic insulin delivery system, the time in range gets better and better. We will see that it also remains sustained. DCCT told all of us years ago that if your HbA1c is well controlled, you are less likely to have long-term and short-term complications. However, at the time, what we did not know is that excursions in sugar level are as bad as elevated HbA1c. So you can have people who actually have a fairly okay HbA1c, but because of the swings in sugar, the excursions, they can actually have the same damage done by consistently elevated blood sugars. And we will come to that why automated insulin delivery system, where there is a sensor that gives feedback, is more important in preventing long-term complications. So this is a study where the title of the study says celebrating the data from 100,000 real-world users of the 780G system in Europe, Middle East, and Africa over 3 years. And what the data shows, I think you focus only on the middle column, which is for children under the age of 15 years, that the time in range is nearly 70% across all the countries that were studied. So the glycemic control of the real-world Minimed 780G system shows that in people, children under the age of 15 years, you can achieve nearly 70% time in range. And if you set it to optimal setting, which is a target sugar of 100 milligram per DL, and the AIT to 2 hours, then actually you get better results. You get 75+% time in range. Now this diagram shows the consistency of glycemic outcomes. So from first month till end of the year, you see that almost all months are showing nearly 73 to 75% time in target. And also not much difference country-wise. So it's not the user, but the system. So it's rather than who uses it, what system is being used seems to determine the time in range. Now this is ADAPT study, which is an adult study, advanced hybrid closed loop study in adult population with type 1 diabetes, and they have compared the MDI plus sensor, CSII plus sensor, and automated insulin delivery. And to evaluate the safety and efficacy of the Medtronic AHCL system in suboptimally controlled type 1 diabetes patients in comparison excuse me, with MDI therapy and intermittently scanned glucose monitoring. So these are patients who are not very well controlled. They have an HbA1c of more than 8. The primary endpoint is the between group difference in HbA1c, and there are some secondary endpoints. And thank you, Ahila. Thank you so much. So as you can see, there is a run-in period of 14 days with MDI and intermittently scanned CGM. And then there are 2 groups, MDI and CGM plus the Minimed 780 system for first 6 months. And then both groups go on to 780G system. And you find that 1.4% HbA1c reduction is seen in 780G within first 3 months, and it remains sustained. And there is a significantly more participants managed to achieve the glycemic treatment goals in those who were on Minimed 780G as compared to on MDI. And the same thing is seen at 6 months in terms of the glucose management index and the time in range. So on all parameters that were studied, compared to the MDI, this was much better. And there wasn't a difference in the total daily dose use. I mean, that's what it is. That whenever I see patients with hyperglycemia in clinical practice who take multiple dose injections, it's a common, I can't say error, but it's a common temptation to increase the dose, and that causes more hypoglycemias. Whereas it's not about the dose that is important, but it is how it is delivered in tandem to the rising sugar. And that's what MDI achieves. So, although it's not a perfect mimicry of nature, it's a fairly crude mimicry by using electronic automation. And here you see that the data also showed that 62% of the total dose was given by the automatic delivery system, and the user initiated boluses were in 38% of the total dose. The improved glycemic control observed with 780G system was associated with increase in the user's treatment satisfaction. Now that is a very important thing, that patients with diabetes have got a huge burden of managing their disease, and their caretakers are often at the end of their tether because of the amount of work you have to do just to control the sugar. So what was the patient reported treatment satisfaction outcome? And they were obviously improved as seen here. Similarly, the improved glycemic control was associated with a decrease in the fear of hypoglycemia. As the number of hypoglycemic episodes reduce, the fear of hypoglycemia reduces. And that's the thing about the predictive algorithm. As the sugar starts showing a downward trend, the machine immediately makes adjustment or switches it off and learns over a period of time. Similarly, quality of life also showed improvement. Now, this is Minimed 780G in 2 to 6 year old children. Safety and clinical outcome after first 12 weeks. And here you see that there is improvement in the HbA1c, mean sensor glucose value, time above range, and time in range also was better. So the conclusion of this study in 2 to 6 year old children in the first 12 weeks was that Minimed 780G closed loop system is a safe system, and 12-week use was associated with improvement in glycemic control in young children, 2 to 6 year old. In addition, the use of closed loop was associated with reduction in the parental diabetes distress after 12 weeks. Now, this is a study that we conducted in our center, and Dr. Shruti, who is here, has been primarily looking at this data. And the objective of the study was to assess device usage characteristics and glycemic control in Indian adolescents with type 1 diabetes using 780G HC HLCL, advanced hybrid closed loop. So it's a single center observational study, and the inclusion criteria was confirmed type 1 diabetes who were using 780G for at least 6 months. And the exclusion was concomitant uncontrolled disorders like hypothyroidism or medications likely to affect glycemic control. And the results show that in 9 children, the auto mode usage was 78%. Mean number of patient initiated insulin boluses per day was 4.2 units. Automated insulin delivery constituted 53.4% of the total daily dose. 42%, that is 5 users, used optimal settings. That's a target level of 100 milligram per DL with an active insulin time of 2 hours. And mean time in range and time in tight range among these patients were 81% and 57% respectively. It's shown in this slide that what happened in first 90 days, next, second, third, fourth, and fifth 90 days. And as you can see that the improvement is consistent. So the total height of the green bar is the time in range, and the light green color actually shows the amount of remaining time. So the dark green bars actually show the time in tight range. Progressive improvement in overall time in range from 70% to 81%, and in time in tight range from 47% to 59%, without any increase in the time below range. So although the time in range got better, the number of hypoglycemic episodes and time hasn't got worse. This is the data, earlier data that was presented at ISPAD Abhishek was presenting this data at the time, and it showed very similar results as compared to what the European trials have shown. So, once again, coming to the same point, it's not who is using it, but what is being used, because your logical thinking is not largely required when you use an automated system. So, to conclude my talk, automatic insulin delivery appears superior to other insulin treatments we use so far. Everyone with type 1 diabetes certainly deserves an automatic insulin delivery system, and we all need to work together to make it a reality. I'm sure Dr. Vijay Kumar is going to throw some lights on the efforts done by Kerala government in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vaman, for that lovely presentation.
So, so now the next presentation is with Dr. Vijay Kumar. He will be talking on the green shoots of democratizing type 1 diabetes outcomes. So I think we'll have question answer in the end. Yeah.
Yes.
Then we should have before the patients. Question answer should have to.
Oh, yeah. First of all, I like to express my gratitude to the organizers for giving me a chance for what we are doing in a small state of India with the government support, how we are moving about with our children with type 1 diabetes. So, what is the magnitude of childhood diabetes around the world? So, it is as high as 60 per 1 lakh in Finland, USA 20 per 1 lakh, Europe almost 10 to 15 per 1 lakh, Australia 25 per 1 lakh. But India is depicted as red bluish color with incidences less than 5 per 1 lakh. And some of the article says the incidence in India is 10 per 1 lakh. But we all know that many cases of type 1 diabetes are underdiagnosed, underreported, and undertreated. So, the type 1 diabetes is having so many unique problems. They require lifelong insulin injections and have to bear its pain, cost, and complications. Lifelong glucose monitoring, again with its cost and pain. Frequent clinic visits, repeated hospitalization. Psychological issues pertaining to the diabetes, to the child and the whole family members. So, a good social support is the strongest factor in uplifting the life of these children, which include financial, emotional, informational, and physical support. So, without an insurance scheme or assistance from the government, optimal manage is impossible. So, in Kerala, in May 2018, the government of Kerala has launched Mitai project that gives comprehensive care for children and adolescents with type 1 diabetes. That is initiated by Government of Kerala Social Justice Department and under the guidance of Kerala Social Security Mission. You can see the inaugural function and you can see Dr. Riaz in the audience, in the stage. So we have 10 aims and objectives for the program. One is early identification of type 1 diabetes, awareness creation to the healthcare personnel, social workers, teachers, and public. Second is strengthening the institutional mechanism for effective clinical and laboratory diagnosis. Third is providing free and comprehensive treatment and monitoring with most appropriate technologies. Fourth is systematic and scientific nutritional management and monitoring. Ensure special care and attention at school because at least 1/3 of the time they will be spending at school. Sixth is physical activity management. Seventh is awareness creation and training of parents, self, and teachers about sick day rules, management of complications like hypoglycemia, training to deal with special situations like travel and holidays. Ninth is address the psychological aspects of the patients and family members, conducting diabetic camps and other outdoor activities. So here we started nodal centers and satellite centers in all the districts in Kerala. So we have 5 nodal centers: Government Medical College Kozhikode, Government Medical College Trivandrum, Government Medical College Trichur, Government Medical College Kottayam, and Government Medical College Alappuzha. And 9 satellite centers, one in district hospital, every district, with district hospital Kasaragod, Government Medical College Kannur, Government Medical College Kalpata Wayanad, District Hospital Perindalmanna, WNC Palakkad, Government Medical College Ernakulam, District Hospital Idukki, District Hospital Pathanamthitta, and District Hospital Kollam. So all the districts are covered under this scheme. So this is the mode of selection. Any child who is diagnosed as having type 1 diabetes has to provide certificate, medical certificate from the doctor, an Aadhaar card of the parents and the child, an age certificate. The cutoff date age is 18, and income certificates, and they have to upload to the website of our Mitai program. Then that is online registration. That is the step 1. All the documents should be uploaded there. Then second step is the state level technical committee scrutinizes the applications and approve. Then third, the approved cases are forwarded to the respective clinic for management and follow-up. So this was the inauguration of initial 2 nodal centers at Calicut and Trivandrum. The personnel is provided by the government is a pediatric endocrinologist or a pediatrician trained in diabetes in every hospital that is entrusted the duty of taking care of these children. And a nurse educator conducts the clinics every day, note down the glucometer readings, insulin adjustment, investigation results, anthropometric measurements, and give the medicines. Dietitian give the diet advice and diet calculation. Round the clock access to the clinic, nurse educator in charge, and they have formed a WhatsApp group also with the patients. So these are our beneficiaries. At the beginning of the program, we had 300 children with type 1 diabetes. Now, as on September 2024, we have 1,821 children with type 1 diabetes, and of which 1,806 children are on basal bolus regime. And what we are giving as basal is glargine, and bolus is aspart, and now we are added fast Fiasp also. And we'll be giving 50 to 100 strips of glucometers per month, and in selected cases, continuous glucose monitoring also. So far, we have given 13. So far, our 13 patients are on insulin pump. We are giving pump free and accessories also. So 2 patients, they have brought insulin pump. They have received insulin from other agencies, but we are giving insulin pump accessories free of cost to them. This is in a session in which we are giving continuous glucose monitoring to a child. So we have a criteria for selection of children for insulin pump. Of these 10 criteria, 5 are very much important. So first one is the child is having severe hypoglycemia, including nocturnal hypoglycemia, activity-induced hypoglycemia, or hypoglycemia unawareness. So that is one criteria. Second is the patient having recurrent diabetic ketoacidosis while on proper basal bolus therapy. And next important one is whether the patient has severe glycemic variability which cannot be controlled with multiple injection, 3 to 4 basal insulin and 3 to 4 bolus insulins and 1 to 2 basal insulins. Then is the patient having low insulin requirement which cannot be titrated using pen devices. Next one is whether the patient has clinical or biochemical features of micro or macrovascular complications. So these are the 5 major criteria, and along with that, suppose the child is having any of the problems, we will put the child on CGM, and after reading the CGM, we will correct it, and after a few months, again we will put second CGM. These 2 CGMs, even after with the second CGM, if the corrections couldn't be made, then we will take this child as a candidate for insulin pump therapy. So always before giving the pump, we will see whether this caretaker is having adequate knowledge regarding insulin dose adjustment based on blood glucose reading, and whether the child and caregiver have the knowledge regarding insulin dose adjustment based on food intake, whether the doses and diet adjustment done based on CGM readings, whether a second CGM applied, and what is the, and whether the child is having adequate education for the pump therapy before inserting the pump. So far, we have 13 children all over Kerala on insulin pump. In Calicut, we have 5 children. 3 children are on 780G Minimed, the newer insulin pump, and 2 children already on older pump derivatives. In Trivandrum, we have 5 children. 2 children are on the new Minimed 780G, and 3 children and already on the older version of the pump. In Kottayam, we have 1. In Trichur, we have 2, 1 in the new pump and 1 in the older. So 2 children, they have received insulin pump 780G from some outside some organizations. We are continuing, and we are giving the consumable free of cost. This is the first case in which the child in which child received the insulin pump years back, and child is from Kasarkot. So these are 3 children on Minibet 780G from Government Medical College, Calicut. And for the first child, actually this child is now around 13-year or 14-year-old. He had frequent hypoglycemia, and actually he was riding a bicycle, and that hit into the car because he was having hypoglycemia. He was hospitalized actually, and now actually his father expired, and along with his studies he has to do some work. He is acting as a courier boy, and recently, before inserting the pump, he had severe hypoglycemia in the night and he fell down. And like that, each 3 patients are having their own stories before inserting the pump. So another important thing that we observed is the CareLink connection, the remote assessment of the patient status that is possible through the CareLink. So we know what are the cutoff of time in range, time above range, time below range, and all these things. And this is the CareLink software connection for our 3 children in Calicut. Both these children, both three children are connected, and this is one of the record of Dr. Tasneem that we were discussing earlier. Actually, you can see that he's now just 2 weeks back. I took it 14 days, 20 days, September last week. So his time in range is almost 80%, and 18% above, 20% above time in range, and only 2% below time in hypoglycemic range. So he had now 3 occasions, 1, 2, 3, 3 occasions he had hyperglycemia. One is between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. That may be because of his snacks he is taking at 11 a.m. And second is just after the morning breakfast, and third is just after the evening dinner. So these 3 times he is having slight hyperglycemic episodes, and he is not having any hypoglycemic episode after this. And his daily total dose was 37.2 units. His weight was around 45 kg, and the bolus amount per day is 24.3 units. 65% are the bolus, and auto correction is 5.9 units. So there is 24% he is having auto correction, and his auto basal is 12.9 units. 35% of the total insulin is they are doing as he is getting at auto basal. So this is the time in which it is not very clear. The automated insulin delivery is coming from the insulin pump for this child. So this is the budget allocation by the government of Kerala for these children. So we can see that every year they are increasing their budget, and last time we got 3.8 crores, that is in US dollar, that 455,000 US dollars for the accessories, that is drugs, consumable, medical equipments, human resource, administrative expense, and capacity building for doctors, school teachers, and parents. We are conducting regular workshops for all these persons. So that is allotted the budget, and 50 lakhs Indian rupees or 60,000 US dollars for insulin pump and accessories. And along with the giving insulin pump and accessories and all the insulin basal and bolus treatment, we are giving initial training sessions for all doctors and nurse educators conducted twice a year, and training for dietitians, special classes for children with diabetes and their parents. And now we have started awareness classes for school teachers in which this student is studying. We select the schools in which a child is having type 1 diabetes and select one teacher, and we will do the awareness classes and workshops. Produce books and pamphlets in the local languages and camps for our diabetic children. So this is the one booklet we have published in our local languages that is being released by the Honorary Health Minister. This is one of the training sessions for doctors. You can see Dr. Riaz taking the training sessions for our pediatricians for the basics of insulin delivery, insulin delivery techniques, and the complications and all these things. This is one of the training session for school teachers by our group.
So,
This was an outreach activities during COVID
Vijay,
times.
we have 2 minutes
Yeah.
more.
So this during COVID, this is a picture from Trivandrum. During COVID times, we have, with the help of our police force, we could deliver all the instruments and insulin pump, insulin pens and all these glucometers to the children. So in summary, the type 1 diabetes requires comprehensive care, including uninterrupted access to insulin and glucose monitoring devices. They should be monitored closely with the help of doctors, nurse educators, dietitians, lab technicians, and psychologists. Good environment should be provided at home, at school, at workplace, and play areas for optimal outcome. Parents and teachers should be trained for effective management of this condition at home and at schools, respectively. The comprehensive care can be provided only by good support from the government or any financial security is there, because majority 99% of cases of our type 1 diabetes are from a poor socioeconomic status, and only 1% are from allied group because they cannot buy all these things and monitor themselves. So without the help of a government program, we cannot support our entire children with type 1 diabetes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, from your state, what would you say is the prevalence of type 1 diabetes?
So I didn't calculate, but along because of this number of children and number of cases, that is only 1 in 1 lakh.
Okay.
So that is again, even with all these programs and all, still we are losing many cases of type 1 diabetes, and still we are getting many cases of type 1 diabetes in severe decay and all.
So is there a way of getting this phenomenon in other states also?
Okay.
Yeah, that is what. Still,
No,
there are a
I
lot
think
of
I can
caveats.
say tomorrow in the GBM, we are introducing ISPE Pediatric Diabetes Registry, which will allow access for all ISPE members to enter data. So that will open up, we will get huge numbers and it will tell us what is happening in India. There are some states like West Bengal, which actually have huge programs running for 10 districts, where Dr. Sujay Ghosh is leading the team. And I think Rajasthan is also going to try to anyway, Kerala is probably the most
best
advanced state in the
state, yeah.
country, but the other
Literacy
places are
wide,
also trying to
literacy
reach.
wide. So
Thank you.
thank you, Vijay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we go on to the next session, where is a fireside chat. No, basically we are going to. This is a patient who is on an insulin pump 780G. So we will like to find out from them what they feel after using the the pump. What actually what I mean benefit they got. So please आपका आप इंट्रोड्यूस कर दीजिए अपने आप को. माइक.
Hello. Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. मैं मोहम्मद नकी, ये मेरा बेटा है. इसको 25 जनवरी 2024 को टाइप 1 डायबिटीज़ डायग्नोज. हमको नहीं पता था कि टाइप 1 डायबिटीज़ है. ये पॉलीयूरिया हो रहा था इसको, तो अपने टेस्ट कराया तो उसमें यूरिन में इसके +4 शुगर आई. मैं ग्लूकोमीटर से टेस्ट किया, 550 इसकी RBS थी। होली फैमिली हॉस्पिटल में ले गया, वहाँ पे जाके पता लगा कि इसको बच्चे की टाइप 1 डायबिटीज़ है। वहाँ से उसके बाद हम लोग इसको ट्रीटमेंट करते रहे। हम लोग तो बहुत परेशान हो गए कि इसमें इतना ज़्यादा, वो सुन के ही घबरा गए कि बच्चे को इतना। फिर ट्रीटमेंट लेके हम लोग डॉक्टर कोचर के पास अपोलो में अपॉइंटमेंट लिया, वहाँ आए। 4 महीने तक इंसुलिन नीडल वाली, वो पेन वाली यूज़ की हमने। हम लोगों को मालूम है हम कितना परेशान थे उसमें। बच्चा हमारा लगवाता नहीं था नीडल, हाइपोग्लाइसीमिया का डर लगा रहता था, हर चीज़ का डर था उसमें। रोते सुबह स्कूल जाने से पहले बच्चे को सोते ही सबसे पहले हम लोग उसके एक ग्लूकोमीटर से चेक करते थे और इंसुलिन देते थे नीडल से। 2 प्रिक उसको बच्चे को सोते ही दिया करते थे। कितना पेनफुल होता था हम लोगों के दोनों के लिए। करते रहे 3-4 महीने हम लोग, चलता रहा ऐसे
So
ट्रीटमेंट।
I'll ask you one more question. He's just trying to tell that what problem he faced before he was picked up and diagnosed diabetes. So he had to go through all this pain of getting injection, getting in the morning, doing the injection, all that. So that's the first part. Second part है कि आपने pump कब लगवाया और क्यों लगवाया?
आपसे डॉक्टर कोचर को एडवाइस किया हमें कि ये पंप के लिए बताया, फिर हमारे भी समझ में आई ये चीज़। तो अभी जुलाई में ही मैंने परचेज़ किया है। उसके बाद ये समझ लीजिए कि हम लोगों की तो लाइफ ही चेंज हो गई है।
नहीं, आपको कैसे, क्या चैलेंजेस जो पहले थे और अब
पहले
आप
तो
बेटर हो गए?
बहुत ही चैलेंजेस थे। रात को भी मैं उठ के बच्चे को चेक करता था कि इसको हाइपोग्लाइसीमिया तो नहीं हो रहा, और स्कूल में जाके भी मुझे लगाना पड़ता था इसके बच्चे के लिए। लेकिन अब मुझे कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, रात में भी हम आराम से होते हैं। और अगर कुछ हाइपोग्लाइसीमिया होता भी है तो उसमें वो अलार्म बज जाता है, हम लोग चेक कर लेते हैं उसमें। और ये हम तो ये सोचते हैं कि बीमारी मिली है, लेकिन ये पंप जो मिला वो हमें अल्लाह ताला ने गॉड गिफ्टेड है। उसकी वजह से अब हमें मालूम ही नहीं है कि हमारे बच्चे को शुगर है।
So what he's trying to say
रिलैक्स
is,
है।
इसमें क्या है, बहुत सारे लोग इंग्लिश जाने, बाहर के फॉरेनर्स भी हैं, मतलब
जी,
फ्रॉम
जी।
ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड डॉक्टर्स हैं। So what he's trying to say is that he got, after he got the pump, so his life changed totally. Life changed for the child totally. His life changed. The parents used to get up every day in the night, in the morning, to check the sugar. They stopped doing that. They used to go to the school to check his sugars. They stopped doing that. So things have changed a lot after he started using the insulin pump. ओके
या
आपको ये इसकी मदर को मैनेज करती है कि नहीं कर सकती इसको?
मैनेज मदर भी कर लेती है, लेकिन मेरा बड़ा बेटा है एक, वो करता है। वो इस 11th क्लास में है, 16 ईयर ओल्ड। वो वही इसके कैनला लगाना और सेंसर लगाना सब वही करता है। वो मैं भी कर लेता हूँ, मदर अभी इतना नहीं कर पाती हैं, लेकिन ये मदर कैनला लगा लेती है। सेंसर में भी थोड़ी प्रॉब्लम है।
नहीं, मदर चेक तो करती होंगी
हाँ,
ना?
वो कर लेती
तो
है।
मदर को कैसे लग रहा है? जो पहले सो के
ज़्यादा
मुश्किल हो रहा था, अब डेली चेक करते हैं, अब कैसे लग रहा है?
अब बहुत अच्छा, बहुत रिलीफ मिला है इसको लगवाकर।
So the mother is also saying that I feel much more relieved now after this pump, that you should get up in the morning to check the sugar and all what's going on. So अब now बच्चे को एक small question, तुमको कैसे लग रहा है अभी, जिंदगी कैसे लग रही है? हाउ कैसे फील हो रहा है, मतलब
बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है।
नहीं, किस तरह से बहुत अच्छा?
पहले हर रोज स्प्रेक करवाना पड़ता था इंसुलिन लगाने के लिए, लेकिन अब नहीं करवाना पड़ता हर रोज।
अच्छा, और
सब कुछ खाता है।
और जितना भी चीज़ें नहीं खा पाता था पहले, अब खा पाता।
ठीक है। So basically what he's trying to tell us that his diet was restricted, his lifestyle was restricted. Now he can eat many things, he can enjoy life more, he can play games. He was doing many things. He was restricted by the parents and by others also, that you have, as a type 1 diabetic, you can't do things. But now he says everything is very easy for me.
Thank you so much, and we wish you all the best. And thanks for coming forward and joining this program and helping us understand how useful you found it. So, can I have some audience interaction on how do you find the use of pumps amongst your patients? Have you tried? So, do any of you want to add a point or any queries you have? While we wait, I'll just ask Vaman for your 2% below range. If you had made the active insulin time 2.5 hours, do you think you could have brought it a bit down?
Yes, possible, but I think it's an age-dependent phenomenon. How long the insulin actually stays in your body. For children who are younger, it seems to last much longer than in older children. So we could perhaps adjusted according to the age.
I was
So
interested.
one question: this democratizing this insulin pump therapy, is there any condition where you cannot democratize it?
No, that's what he said.
No.
As long as people can get it and they can understand,
No,
I think
like in
everybody is eligible.
Kerala, they have, they're giving to people
That
who
is
can afford. So, is there any
that
condition
is
where you cannot
an utopia
democratize?
in India.
Huh?
Kerala is a utopia in India. So whatever the patients need, the doctors will see to it that every child in that state gets what they have to get.
We have also a lot of tremendous economic problem, but and we couldn't give because there is a waiting list also for insulin pump. I think all because that criteria, many children
Yeah,
have.
most
Yeah,
of the children, because if you see glycemic
yeah,
variations,
that
too
is
much,
there.
everybody will come
Yeah,
in that group.
so actually we made a list. Actually, all these nodal centers, they will send the list, and the state technical committee will see whether this child requires, and we'll make a list. Actually, so many are waiting in the list,
So
still we
we
couldn't
could
provide it.
also request Medtronic people to try to decrease the price a little more, because 780G is being required by most of the patients now. So if they can do something about that part also.
I think
Anything.
Dr. Preeti Singh is prodding us
Oh.
and saying we are actually overstaying and overstayed our time in the podium. Thank you so much, and we wish you all the
Thank
best.
you,
And really, really thankful for all of you
all
for
for
coming
coming.
here and sharing your
Thank you for
experience.
coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks, Medtronic, and thanks, Dr. Vaman and Dr. Vijay Kumar, for sharing your experience. And I think there'll be a lot more data probably in the years to come with more users in the country. Thank you so much.